That's all we got.
I can't believe this.
Yeah, that's funny.
Are you sure?
You only have one room.
Well, yeah, we're fully booked. Only a fool wants to drive in this weather.
You know those Hallmark Channel movies that just put you in the Christmas spirit?
I'm just here to help you save Christmas.
You can thank the official Storyteller of Christmas, Debbie Macomber, for many of them.
And I want to give them something that's going to make them feel good and make them want to, give them inspiration and hope that they could find that same kind of happiness themselves.
You'll find that common theme not just in Debbie Macomber's Christmas novels turned movies, but in most of her many books. Over her 40-year career, she's written everything from romance novels to children's books. And now she even has her own magazine.
The scripture says that God will do above and beyond anything we can think or imagine. And he certainly has in my life.
In this conversation, the #1 New York Times bestselling author talks about how she couldn't even read before the 5th grade.
I really think dyslexia is a gift that God gave me.
How she turns her ideas into popular novels, like her latest title, It's Better This Way.
The story just takes hold of me and it won't let go, or you can't sleep nights where you're thinking about the characters and the plot, or when you're swimming and hit a wall.
Yes, she'll even talk about how she literally hit a wall, as well as her other love besides writing and her first unauthorized publication.
I ran away from home. I was mortified. It was horrible. Now, in retrospect, I keep thinking about how well it sold.
Hi, I'm Angie Weidinger, and this is First Person One-on-One. And today I'm so excited to welcome Debbie Macomber to our show. Welcome, Debbie.
Oh, thank you, Angie. I'm already excited to be here.
Where are you right now?
I am on Hood Canal in Washington State, which is not far from Seattle.
And this is your home office?
This is my home office, yes.
Oh, I see a little typewriter behind you and all kinds of fun things.
Goodies, yes. The typewriter is to help me remember exactly where I started and where I came from. A rented typewriter on the kitchen table.
You rented a typewriter?
Yes, yes, we did.
Oh my goodness. I heard somewhere that it wasn't even an electric one, right? It was a manual one.
It was a manual one because we were a one-income family and we couldn't afford the rental fee on the electric. And it probably would have caused more problems than it helped with cords and everything else.
Right. Well, and if you had 4 kids running around.
Right.
So Debbie, this is when you were what, like 30 years old?
Yes.
And you mother of 4. When did you do this? When did you find time? I mean, I have 2 and it's hard to find time to do anything.
The older 2 were in grade school, kindergarten and 1st grade. And the other 2 were in preschool. So while they were gone, my little fingers flew across those keys.
So you typed and wrote, but it wasn't like you sent in that book and away you went. And now you've got the Debbie Macomber, media franchise that it is. That it didn't happen that easily, did it?
No. It was 4 books, 5 years. I used to say that my manuscripts got rejected so fast that they hit the back of my head on the way home from the post office.
But you just kept doing it. Did you feel like you just had to keep doing it?
Well, the best way I can think to describe it, Angie, is I always had trouble in school because I'm dyslexic. I didn't learn to read until I was in the 5th grade. And the 3rd grade teacher told my mother, Debbie's a nice little girl, but she is never going to do well. Oh. And, that kind of just followed me all the way through school. I mean, I feel fortunate to have graduated from high school. But there was that dream that just pounded inside. I mean, the only way I can think to describe it is if you burn yourself, it throbs with pain. But I had this dream of writing books. And every time I thought about it, I throbbed with joy. There would be like this happiness that would just come over me. And I couldn't let go of that dream.
Oh, we're so glad you didn't. So let's talk about that dyslexia a little bit, because I find it so interesting. I mean, you've had such success in writing, which a lot of people, when they hear dyslexia, I think, well, my goodness, that's the furthest thing that most people want to focus on. And yet that's the career path you went to. You had to have some struggles with it.
Oh yes. Even though we were on one income, I had to pay someone to type up my manuscripts because even now I'm a creative speller. That's just one part of being dyslexic, is that inability to spell. And languages are very difficult for me too. And I had to learn to be the writer. The gift God gave me is that of a storyteller. And I mean, the stories I've never had problems coming up with stories. The ideas have always been there. But yes, I didn't know I was dyslexic until my own sons were diagnosed with it. And almost always is boys. Girls do have it, but it's the majority are boys.
So when you write, you said you had to pay someone to go over your manuscripts. Would you have different words in different places, or how was it for you?
Yes, interchangeable words for me. The words just and much are interchangeable in my mind, and why, I don't know. And I also will skip words in a sentence. I mean, the sentence could be 7 letters long and I have 5, but I see it. And
right.
That's why everything I write has to be proofread again and again.
Do you think, I've heard you say before, though, that while it's presented some challenges for you, you also feel like it's opened up doors for you. Is that true?
Oh, definitely. I really think dyslexia is a gift that God gave me, because it gave me that creative imagination. I say that I'm so right-brained, I walk with a limp. That's what I tell children too that I meet, or even adults. If they are dyslexic, it really is a gift. You just have to find, what your area is, and you will excel. You just have to find where you excel.
Where are some other things around your office? Do you have authors? I've heard you have authors around, pictures of authors.
I do autographed authors in I have a big office in Port Orchard, and I have it's beautiful. It's up in a turret. And on the way up to this turret, I have the authors that I read as a kid and as an adult who have inspired me. And every time I walk up those stairs and I see their signatures and their pictures, I'm reminded of the importance of story. Like I have Harriet Beecher Stowe there. And there I have a Harper Lee's autograph. Mm-hmm. And, so you just think about the profound impact story has had in all of our lives.
Absolutely. Well, and another author that you actually met once was a librarian when you met her. Is that true?
Oh, yes, this is so true. And what a great story this is. Thank you for reminding me of it. And I actually have her signature on my wall too. So the very first time I went to the library was when I was about 4 years old, and my mother took me for children's hour. Mm-hmm. And she said, when the librarian handed me the book, I took hold of it with both hands and put it right next to my heart. I was so excited to have a book. To this point, I hadn't had books at home. The only thing I had were the golden books. Uh-huh. And from that point forward, my mother said, I refused to go down for a nap or even to go to bed unless I had a book in my hand. And which is a great story, but the librarian who handed to me was Beverly Cleary.
Gives me chills. Where was that? Where were you when you were growing up?
Yakima, Washington. It was her very first year as a librarian.
I love how you talk about story, because you've been writing, like you said, since you were 30, and this latest book, It's Better This Way, is such a wonderful story. Where did the idea for this novel come from? How did you start this one?
Well, I never thought I'd get an idea for a book in church. But our pastor was telling a story about, he has just this saying, it's better this way. And he says it so often to his kids when they have a disappointment or whatever. And he would say, it's better this way. And they threatened to put it on his tombstone. So immediately my head started spinning with ideas of what would be better this way. And it's the story of 2 divorced people who, one of them just struggled so hard to save her marriage. And she remembered her father was saying it's better this way. So she had to let go. And the thing is too, I've seen so many of my friends who've, either been widowed or divorced later in life that are finding happiness again. And it really was better this way.
When you read it, you do think about that saying in life, when you get so bummed when something doesn't happen. And, there's been a lot in the last year, there's been a lot of things that are, kind of been bummed about, but it kind of helps you think about, hey, there might be something, bright and shiny around the other corner.
Well, I certainly learned through COVID. It's very much like when I first started writing, to be writing at home again. And I'm actually really loving it. I can't wait to go back to the office.
It's better this way.
Yes, exactly.
Debbie, how many books have you written? Do you know?
I don't, because the first 20 years I was writing in category romance, which is sort of like a magazine. They go out for a month and they're gone. At the end of the month, they take them off the shelves. And I say that those books had the shelf life of cottage cheese, and they were much shorter books. So now they're publishing them again in 2 books at a time with a different cover and a different title. So there's just so many of those that are out now.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just novels. I mean, you have cookbooks and coloring books and just all kinds of things, right?
Oh, yes. I'm a frequent eater. I always knew that this was going to pay off, because I collect recipes like crazy. I love to cook. Well, I love to eat. So yeah, and the kids' books, I've knit written a couple of kids' books with my friend Mary Lou Carney, and the one is based on a true story called "The Truly Terrible, Horrible, Awful Sweater Grandma Knit," which went to my grandson Cameron.
Obviously, writing is a obvious love of yours, but knitting is as well.
Knitting saved me as a child. It really did, because I was so beaten down and struggled so hard in school. For whatever reason, when I was about 11, I wanted to learn how to knit. I pestered my mother until she took me to a yarn store and they taught me how to knit. But in the process, I had a sense of accomplishment. I had a sense of achievement. It helped me with my comprehension skills. It helped me with math skills. So
Isn't that
it
interesting?
really did help me and even more as an adult, because I processed the world through my yarn.
What are you working on right now?
Oh, I just happen to have it right here.
Oh, let's see it.
Fun thing. This is a really fun thing. It's called Whatever the Weather, and it's a knit along, and you knit 1 row a day. And the color of the yarn indicates what the weather is like. So the temperature, so you can see the winter down here. And last week we had 100-degree weather, 106 here. And you can see the very, very dark color for the 106. So it's whatever the weather.
What a neat idea.
It is
I
a cool
love
idea.
that.
And so my granddaughter Bailey is probably going to end up with this for Christmas.
You talk about how important knitting is. You actually started an organization with knitting involved.
Well, I know that just by nature, knitters are generous people. And there are so many children and people all around the world who are cold and miserable. And I was fortunate enough. So it's knit 1, bless 2. You knit something, you bless 2 people, because you bless yourself and you bless them. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Kenya. Now, you wouldn't think it would be cold in Kenya, but there are mountains there and it gets very cold. And delivered sweaters and hats to these children. And I was able to say, somebody in America loves you enough to knit this for you. And they were so excited. You just can't imagine the joy that filled their faces to get this hand knitted item from America.
I read on your website that sometimes you just really get caught up in your writing. You've got your story going, and sometimes you get so caught up that you even hit a wall once.
I did. I'm a swimmer. And a lot of times when I'm swimming laps, I will be plotting in my mind, the scenes that I'm going to be writing that day. And one day I just actually literally hit the wall with my head, and it hurt.
I'll bet. But you just were it was playing out in your, does it play out kind of like a movie for you?
It does. Yeah, I was in the zone. Somebody once said, it's such a lonely occupation you have. I thought, not me. I've got all these characters.
How do you name those characters? It's Heath and Julia in this book. Are they, because I mean, you've written so many. Are you running out of names?
It is a struggle to find names I haven't used. And I struggle because the name has to fit the personality. And I can remember one book, I changed the hero's name 4 times, and it was, I don't even remember the title of the book, but I named him Cain because he was an outsider. And Cain was the first man born outside the gates of paradise. He was always looking in. So it took me that long to come up with the name.
Well, speaking of names, it seems like I heard you talk that the names of your books sometimes change as well. I think, I think right now you're working on a book. Is it called Soldier Boy? Is that the one you're working on now?
That's the one yes, that's the title, but it's now that we have a new title.
Oh, already there's a new title.
There's a new title for it, and it's called The Best Is Yet to Come. The best is sort of, it kind of matches. It's better this way. The best is yet to come. Yes.
So these names, do you come up with the title, or does the marketing team come up with the title?
Publishing usually does, and marketing and sales all have I have a great story about one book title. I don't even remember the title I had for it, but New York was debating back and forth, and my editor called me. It was 7 o'clock at night, which means they were discussing this for a long time. And she said, "This is our final decision. We're going to title the book Susanna's Garden." And I said, "Well, that's a lovely title, but there are 2 problems. There's nobody in the book named Susanna. There's no garden." So I went back and changed the heroine's name to Susanna and added the garden.
I've heard that you've been given the nickname of the official storyteller of Christmas. Is that true? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes. Yes. I love Christmas.
So tell me, why have you, you've written several novels. In fact, don't you have another novel coming out soon about Christmas?
Dear Santa.
And that's coming out when?
It'll come out October.
So why have you written so many books about Christmas?
I think Christmas is just such a special time of year. It seems like our hearts are more open, and there is a feeling of goodwill towards men, and it's just a joyous time. And yet we all put so many pressures on ourselves. So I decided I wanted to write a book that my readers could sit down and just relax and enjoy a real Christmas story every year.
Do you have any of your novels that are being turned into Hallmark Channel movies?
Well, I have 5 of them that are optioned. So who knows?
Right. Well, because you've already had 5 that have turned into a movie, right?
Yes,
Is it
something
5?
like that, yeah.
And are you involved in any way? Do you go on the set, or does that all happen outside of what you do?
No, I have been up to the set. Almost every movie I have been up to the set, and my kids have been in the scenes. They don't have any speaking parts. I had a speaking part in one of the Cedar Cove episodes. So I'm a member of the Screens Guild.
I love it. What is that like to be on the set? You said that you see these playing out in your mind as movies. I mean, sometimes I'm sure they're not exactly the way that you saw them.
Not at all. But my husband has a very succinct way of making me understand if I have any quibbles. And he says, "The check cleared." So,
let it go.
And they're different mediums. You just have to let go. You have to let go of the story as you see it, because their version is going to be different.
Right.
But it's an honor. Right. It's such an honor to have one of your books made into a movie. I mean, it's what every author dreams about.
Right. Yes. When you're on the set, was there anything that you saw that was surprising about, the way things are made? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's boring. They do the same scene over and over and over, and they do it different angles. And it just takes like one scene can take hours. I mean, one short little scene, I thought, wow.
So you have a newfound appreciation. Yeah.
And how much of the actor puts into, they have a, 3-word line, and how much of their ability and talent goes into those 3 words. I mean, I just stood in awe of them.
Tell me a little bit about what you're working on now.
The best is yet to come.
The Best Is Yet to Come. Tell me a little bit about what that's about.
The idea for it is came from just an interview I saw on TV, and it was a soldier, or well, probably a general or somebody very high up in the Army, who said just one sentence that just captured, live a life worthy of their sacrifice. And it just, it has gripped my heart. I thought, and I immediately came up with the idea of somebody who had lost friends, who was injured himself, a wounded hero, a wounded warrior that was coming home with a lot of anger issues. And his role and his recovery from that when he moves to this little town.
Yeah. So that's what we have to look forward to. That's next summer that we'll see that one?
Next summer, yes. But in between, you get to hear Dear Santa.
That's right. Debbie, how do you juggle all these balls?
I've done it for so many years now that it's just fun for me. This is the fun part. I think somebody asked me, when are you happiest? When I'm in the middle of a book and when the story just takes hold of me and it won't let go, or you can't sleep nights where you're thinking about the characters and the plot, or when you're swimming and hit a wall.
That's great. Is there something that you do? It sounds like the stories just flow. I mean, you're so used to it now. I mean, how many years has it been that you've been writing?
I've been published 40 years. Almost 40 years. I know.
Wow.
Lots of books in the background. Yeah.
Yes. Is there anything that you do that kind of helps you focus, or is there any kind of routine, or do you just write anywhere, anytime, or how does your process work?
No, I only write in one place, at my desk. I mean, I know authors who will bring their laptop and travel and write and stuff. I just don't. Work is work, and home is home, and family is family, so I only write at one place. And I just have my little routine every morning. I get up and I do my Bible reading and write in my journals. I've had journals from the time I was in grade school, junior high. Wow. In fact, my first sale was my brother and two of my cousins who made copies of my diary and sold them to the boys in my class. Yes. Yes, that was my reaction too. I ran away from home. I was mortified. It was horrible. So
they did that to you? That's terrible.
I know it's terrible, but now in retrospect, I keep thinking about how well it sold.
It's your first bestseller.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So that's a good way of looking at it, I suppose.
Yes, it's the only way I can in retrospect. Yeah. But in fact, those journals are full of history too. Like when John Kennedy died, I wrote in my journal about that. And when the spaceship Columbia exploded, or Challenger, both of them. And I wrote about that, on different things. And when Reagan was shot, I mean, all of those things are in my journals.
Debbie, I have so enjoyed this conversation with you. It's such a pleasure to read your books and for you to invite us into your home to see a little bit of where you work.
Oh, well, thank you, Angie. It was fun.
And for those of you who are wanting to pick up a copy of It's Better This Way, it's such a fun read. You can get that at Left Bank Books. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy reading.